Welcome. You have reached review time with Imperial, and today's review is Beverly Hills Cop 4. Subscribe to the channel, like the video. Let's get into it. So let's get right into this. So let's go over the cast. Eddie Murphy, Axel Foley, Joseph Gordon-Levitt as Detective Bobby Abbott, Taylor Page as Jane Saunders, which is played as the daughter of Axel Foley. Judge Ringwald plays as Billy Rosewood. John Ashton plays as Chief John Taggart. And you have Kevin Bacon plays as Captain Cade Grant. Then there was a cameo appearance with Eddie Murphy's daughter. She plays as a cop. When you see her in the movie, she plays as the cop who arrested Eddie Murphy when he was doing his shenanigans. You also had a few different cameos throughout the movie. They just had a line or two or a scene. But other than that, let's get into the film. So movie is based off of nostalgic. Like if you watch all of the Beverly Hills Cops, then you're gonna watch this just because the last Beverly Hills Cop 3 came out in 1994. So 20 years later, they did a part 4. Part 3, they didn't have. I don't recall Taggart being in part 4. Part 3, Billy did show up with a whole army of guns and stuff like that. So yeah, part 3, Billy did show up. So nevertheless, in this film, it starts off, of course, with Axel in Detroit, still doing undercover work. He's with a partner. They're at the hockey game, and he is trying to show the young guy the ropes. And they try to be humorous and try to blend some of the old nostalgic stuff with the new technology and how the way the world works in present day. So were they successful? Not really. And some things they could have did differently. Nevertheless, Axel still is in the field. I guess his lieutenant or whoever is about to retire. And so Axel within this time frame has had a daughter. He was married. He couldn't give up the life of being out in the field. Lost his wife and kid. They tried to go to therapy. Didn't work. Nevertheless, his daughter became a lawyer out in LA. So it kind of, the setup was, if you remember part 2 of Beverly Hills Cop, where the lieutenant or the captain called Axel at the beginning of part 2. They were supposed to have a fishing trip, but he was following a lead on the Alphabet heist gang, and he ended up getting capped. So this kind of like they set it up like that with Billy, where Billy was doing private eye work. He had a lead on some things that was going down in the city, and he went missing. Nobody could find him. That's what triggered Axel to come to LA. Went to Billy's house, seen some dudes snooping around, and instantly they got into it. So it's a bunch of what you see. That's the basis of the story. So his daughter's the lawyer for a young drug dealer who was getting framed for being a cop killer. And he didn't do it. However, you got Grant, who is played by Kevin Bacon, who's in bed with the cartel, and he's doing a lot of dirty stuff. And so the plot is to get the young man free, because he didn't really kill the cop. Get Grant and them locked up. That's the plot of the whole movie, and mending the relationship between Axel and his daughter. Meanwhile, also his daughter had a boyfriend who was the boyfriend played by, I said his name in the beginning. nevertheless, oh yeah, played by Joshua Gordon-Levitt. Detective Bobby Abbott. He used to be in the field, used to drive helicopters, fly helicopters, not drive. And he eventually crashed the helicopter, and that took him out the field. And I guess he just was doing like psychology work. Nevertheless, Eddie Murphy's daughter, Jane, was messing with him, and you can see their chemistry instantly. Axel picks that up as well. So while they're trying to figure out where Billy is and crack this case, Axel and Detective Bobby end up winning. And of course Grant is dirty, and Grant is looking to get Axel and them behind bars. They locked them up at one point. Axel and them escaped, and then it became a good scene where it was humorous. Bobby had to relearn how to fly a helicopter, barely could fly it because the last one he crashed. So it's a bunch of scenes like that. Eventually, in the end, they found Billy, rescued him. Then they had to rescue Jane. End up in the cartel mansion at the end. Taggart, who is now the chief, came to help at the end with the shotgun. And cool thing, if those of us who's been following the series of Beverly Hills Cop, is Taggart always had a thing with Maureen, his wife Maureen, and it seems like the first Beverly Hills Cops 1, the first one, Maureen was going to divorce him. Part 2, she took him back. I really don't recall what mentioned in Part 3, but Part 4, we finally get to see Maureen yapping in the back while he's working out. And, you know, just being an old couple back and forth with one another. So that was cool to see, finally see Maureen in one of the movies. Because you just always heard the name in the other Beverly Hills Cops. So nevertheless, that was cool. Whenever they end up killing Grant at the end, Eddie Murphy took a bullet for his daughter. They mended their relationship. Meanwhile, Detective Bobby and Jane, they got back together. So Axel and the crew saved the day. So at the last scene, it was Billy and Taggart sitting out like a stakeout like they did in Part 1, like where they were supposed to be waiting on Axel out front of the hotel. And then Axel comes and jumps in the car. He did the same thing at the end and pretty much told them, let's go get something to eat. And so they did. And that's how the movie ended, with Eddie smiling. So now, it didn't, they kind of look at it as a flop. Not too many people may not have viewed it. And I think because the newer generation is not too much aware of these films, and that kind of what pushes these films and stuff like that. So you got my generation and the older generation who would tune in. But Eddie Murphy's been kind of like, it's like a myth. Like those old classic movies with Coming to America and Golden Child and all them. He kind of detached from them type movies a long time ago. And now the movies that come out with, it's really not catching with the younger generation. He came out with You People like 2 years ago or a year ago. That was okay, but then we don't see him again. So you're looking for Eddie. People want Eddie to be more like, they, you know, you're never going to be the same, but that 80s version that was raw and talking about what's going on in society and life and being funny with it, the impressions and all that, they're looking for that, and that's not what they're getting. So it's not gravitating. So a lot of people, even in my generation and older, that I talked to really didn't care for this film. It was okay to me for nostalgic purposes, but other than that, I just think it was missing. It wasn't as funny as people imagine it should have been. People have had classic funny movies with Eddie Murphy, and so to be in movies where it's really not that funny, you're just following it. Or maybe he is time has passed him, so he's saying the same funny stuff, but it just doesn't hit like it used to. So that's basically my take on it. Just like Coming to America 2 wasn't that good either. So some movies you might gotta let go. But he had a franchise of a whole bunch of movies, so you know he can still voice shit by bringing those movies back. Nevertheless, out of my 4-star rating system, I give this movie a 2.5 out of 4 stars. Really, it's a 2 out of 4 stars. I'm giving it a 2.5 for nostalgic purposes. It wasn't a bad movie. It just wasn't. It didn't hit the cylinders of, yo, that was real good. Especially after we just watched. Many of us just watched Bad Boys 4. And that was a hit. Part 3 was a subpar, but Part 4 was a hit. And I think what they can do, because the daughter kind of said, well, you know, you said they love you here in LA. Like, it opened up the door for Part 5. And he could bounce back with a better Part 5. This is just the subpar one that we could say. And then come back with Part 5 with a banger. But you got to come with a... Don't wait as long. Maybe a year next year. Get some great writers, great jokes. And bring it back. Subscribe to the channel, like the video. Till next time.